Applying for a job. Hey, it happens every day, as we all know. Well, it takes us to this week's case. It involves a woman, young woman, 17 years old, Samantha. She was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She was applying for a job at Abercrombie and Fitch. And she was wearing a headscarf, a hijab. She was wearing it because she was Muslim. When she applied, the people interviewing her said, guess what? We can't hire you because you do not comply with our look policy. It was a policy the store had that employees had to have a certain kind of an appearance. So she didn't get the job. She then complained to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the EEOC brought suit on her behalf, and it went to a federal district court. There, the federal district court looked at it and said, hey, you weren't hired because you were asserting your religious beliefs. You were wearing a headscarf. Therefore, that's discrimination. And under Title VII, bang, you, Abercrombie and Fitch, have discriminated. You need to hire her. You're subject to sanctions. Well, Abercrombie and Fitch argued, you know what? We didn't know. The people who were interviewing her did not know enough about Islam to realize that the hijab that she was wearing was part of her religious practice, and she never said anything that this is part of my religious practice. So we don't think we can be held accountable for discrimination since we didn't discriminate against her due to her religious practice. We just had our look policy. On the other side, the EEOC is arguing, well, wait a second, you know, it's a well-known religious practice on the part of Muslims that headscarves are worn by females. You guys had constructive knowledge of that. You violated her religious freedom by saying she couldn't work for you because she was wearing a headscarf. All right, goes up to the 10th Circuit. And at the 10th Circuit, the court hears the arguments and says, you know, you, Abercrombie and Fitch, are right. You're right. You didn't discriminate against this woman because you did not have knowledge that wearing that headscarf was part of her religious practice. She needed to tell you that wearing the headscarf was part of her religious practice in order for you to provide her with an accommodation. Well, guess what, folks? This case is now going up to the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court begins its session on the first Monday in October. Well, here we are in 2014, and in the session for 2014-2015, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear this case and will hear these arguments. We've had a decision for one person in the trial court. We've had a decision for the company in the appellate court. So the court will hear this, but here is the big catch-22. The big catch-22 that companies have is when they interview people, they can't ask about religion because to do so would indicate a tendency to discriminate. And so what do you do? And this is the big issue being raised also by Abercrombie and Fitch, because they said we didn't know this was part of her religious practice because we didn't ask, because we did not want to appear to be discriminatory when asking about her religion. So what needs to be done here? Now at the 10th Circuit it was said that an employee, a prospective employee, needs to say, hey, this is my religious belief, this is why I'm dressed the way I am, this is what I have to do in order to practice my religion, and they have to make that known before an employer can either agree to make accommodations or not make accommodations because it's impractical or expensive in the workplace. So we'll see whether that's the rule that's upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, that in order for someone to assert their religious beliefs and practices in the workplace, they need to tell an employer. Or does an employer have knowledge simply because it's generally known in the society as a whole, even though it might not be known to those individuals doing the interview? We'll see what this decision will be, and when this decision comes along, you will have knowledge as to why the court's making this decision and the basis for it doing so. Hey, we bring these cases to you every week so you understand how the law works. I'm David Allen.